$2 billion. That is the amount of money that the Yankees spent from the year 2010 to the year 2019. It is also the same amount of money that Jeff Bezos makes when he blinks his eyes 10 times. Now, before we get into this video, I want to take the time to say that, man, this video took an extremely long time to make. Whether it was looking at all the numbers before recording or editing, I really hope y'all enjoy this video because it took a while. Also, help your boy out. Follow him on Twitter. If you were to spend $2 billion on something, I think it's safe to say that you'd want a return. Whether it's an investment for future profits, which in this case, the return being money, or you just so happen to buy something that was worth $2 billion. I don't know what that would be, but I think you would hope that the quality of it would be great. And trust me when I say the Yankees spending is probably far from over. We have two guys that are going to be in this year's free agency. One, Garrett Cole, who's going to be looking for an enormous contract, and the other, Madison Bumgarner, who probably wants a big contract as well, and it seems that both players are on the Yankees' radar. So just how much money is it going to take for the Yankees to get back to the glory days that most of their fan base wasn't even alive for? Just a joke. Calm down. Let's take a look at what the Yankees have been able to accomplish these past 10 years. To kickstart the 10 years, they decided to win a World Series in 2009, and then the 2010 season follows, thus beginning the decade of $2 billion. So in 2010, the Yankees, they met up with the Texas Rangers in the ALCS, and they ended up losing. The Texas Rangers that year were ranked 27th in the payroll, and as you could probably guess it, the Yankees were number 1. So essentially, you can say the Yankees got moneyballed. In 2011, it wasn't as bad of a payroll defeat. They lost to the Detroit Tigers, who were ranked 12th on the payroll, but to get a little stingy in there, they lost in the ALDS and didn't make the championship series. And yes, the Yankees, they were ranked number 1 in payroll again at $213 million. In 2012, they met the Tigers yet again, this time in the ALCS, and the Tigers, they had bumped up their payroll a little bit. They were now 5th in the rankings of payroll, mainly due to the fact that they signed Prince Fielder to a huge contract. Plus you had guys like Miguel Cabrera and Justin Verlander getting paid as well. But even though they lost to a team that had raised their payroll by quite a bit, they ended up getting swept in the ALCS. So another little stinger got put in there. In 2013, the Yankees were finally bested by another team as far as how much they were willing to pay their players. They were beaten by the Dodgers by $600,000, which isn't a lot. But I throw them a bone. The Yankees, they were still ranked 2nd on the payroll. But they completely missed the playoffs. In 2014, the Yankees were cut a little bit of slack yet again by the Dodgers because the Dodgers took the number 1 ranking payroll in the league. But the Yankees still missed the playoffs. The year 2015, also the year known as the Astros, finally catching their stride as the dynasty that they have built that has lasted until today. Unlucky enough for the Yankees, they ended up meeting that Astros team in the AL wildcard. And we all know how that ended up. The Yankees were shut out by the Astros in the wildcard game and were eliminated immediately. And by the way, the Yankees that year had a payroll of $222 million. And the Astros, well, they were ranked 25th on the payroll and had a payroll of $81 million. Ah yes, the battle of the $222 million team versus the $81 million team. And Moneyball is yet again victorious. 2016 was yet again another down year for the Yankees. They spent a whopping $220 million on their payroll, finished 4th in the division, and as you can assume from that, missed the playoffs entirely. But that was the last extreme down year for the Yankees because from 2017 to this year, 2019, they have consistently made the playoffs. They lost twice in the ALCS and then once in the ALDS, which also equals to getting eliminated by the Astros twice and getting eliminated by their rivals, the Red Sox, once. So as we can see from all of the numbers and those years, the Yankees spending money does not always equal to winning. Now we can simply look at the past decade and come to the conclusion that the Yankees didn't spend their money well, but that's without even looking at where the money actually went. So instead of just taking it for face value, how about we actually look at where this money was put? And just so we can have some extra transparency, so you know where I'm getting my numbers and where I'm going with all of this, I took the top 8 paid players on the Yankees from 2010 to 2019. Why did I take the top 8 paid players? Because that's where you see those big, hefty contracts that we love players getting. So I took the top 8 paid players, I added up all of their contract money that they earned throughout this past decade, and they paid roughly $1.4 billion to 31 different players over these last 10 years. Now the report is that the Yankees have spent $2 billion or more dollars over the past decade. I'm gonna go with a flat $2 billion just to make things easier. And if we do some simple math, $1.4 billion, well, that's 70% of $2 billion. So they paid 70% of $2 billion to 31 players. Which players appeared in the top 8 the most often? This will give us a clear identification on the players that were paid the most. And by the most, I mean the most from the Yankees, not their career earnings. CC Sabathia was a top 8 paid player on the Yankees for 8 seasons out of this last decade, which he appeared the most out of any other player in this decade. Mark Teixeira and Alex Rodriguez appeared 7 times, so not as much as CC Sabathia obviously, but the next ones below them would be Masahiro Tanaka and Jacoby Ellsbury, the forgotten Yankee. Then you had Derek Jeter appearing 5 times, and then a bunch of other players that appeared 2 to 3 times like Aroldis Chapman, etc. So let's take the top 3 players that appeared the most: CC Sabathia, Mark Teixeira, and Alex Rodriguez. Throughout this past decade, these 3 players were paid a total of $525.2 million. Those 3 players made that much money in total, which, once again, doing some simple math, we can see that that amount of money, $525.2 million, is 26% of $2 billion. So yes, 26% of $2 billion went to just 3 players. Now let's throw Jacoby Ellsbury and Masahiro Tanaka's contracts into the mix and see what we get. Why am I choosing those 2 players? Because they were the next 2. They both appeared 6 times, so we're taking a player that appeared 8, 2 that appeared 7, and 2 that appeared 6. And let's see what we get. That would bring the total from $525.2 million all the way to $783 million. That means that 39.1% of the $2 billion spent over this past decade went to just 5 players. That is a lot of money for 5 players. New York money is no joke. When you can spend 39.1% of $2 billion on 5 players, you know you have money to spend. So how does the Yankees' greater than $2 billion reported decade compare to other big spenders around the league? Well, let's take a look at their rivals. The Red Sox have a reported $1.8 million spent over the last decade, which, I mean, it's a lot of money. It's only $200 million short of $2 billion. If we recall, the Yankees spent $1.4 billion on 31 different players. That's only $400 million less than the Yankees spent on a total roster for 10 years. Now, another big spender, the Dodgers, they actually came in at $2 billion, which leads me to believe that maybe we should be talking about them as well. Like this video if you want to see a video about the Dodgers' $2 billion decade, because I'd love to look into that. Because the Dodgers had some really hefty spending years. Oh man, that would be great to look at. Following that up, the Cubs landed at $1.4 billion. Like I said in that Rise and Fall of the Cubs video, they're some pretty big spenders too. And then the Giants topped it off at $1.6 billion. The Giants are some pretty big spenders as well. And, they win every now and then. But like I said, these are just some big spenders to compare to the Yankees' $2 billion over the past 10 years. And yes, as you can see, the Yankees are one of the biggest spenders of them all, only being rivaled by the team across the United States and Los Angeles. Also, I think it's important for me to announce where I'm getting these numbers. If you're wondering, I got all of my numbers from this website called Spot Rack. They have an MLB page where they show the total payroll, whether it's from injured or retained salaries from players that aren't even on the team anymore. That's still included in the payroll. So I'm going to link that website, that page, download in the description if you want to take a look at it. But as I've been talking about the Yankees over these past 10 years in this video, it's very easy to call what they have done these past 10 years a failure. That is, if your main gauge of success is dependent on winning a World Series. Over this decade, the Yankees have had the winningest team. It's a pretty big deal. Not only that, they've had 2 100-win seasons. They've made the ALCS a total of 4 times, which is big. And not only that, they've made the playoffs in total, ALDS, 6 times. And then they have their lonely little wild card game, which they got shut out by the Astros. But that's still a good run, right? I mean, is it the Yankees team that graced the era between 1995 and 2007? No. But that is something that is extremely hard to replicate, no matter how much money you spend. Like I said at the beginning of the video, man, hopefully all of you enjoyed this video and learned something about these past 10 years. It took a lot of time looking at all the numbers, trying to figure out the best way to communicate how much money they've spent, because I had a feeling that most of their money went to a group of players, because let's be honest, that tends to be the most Yankee thing to do. Find really good talent and just dump your money into them. But if you made it to the end of this video, let me know what your opinion is of the last 10 years for the Yankees. I'll be interested to know. Also, I'm pretty sure that a lot of Yankee people are going to click on this video and absolutely hate it. But it is what it is. I wasn't as so much talking trash about the Yankees as just talking about a topic that's pretty hot right now. The $2 billion decade.